Hi, welcome to this video on more advanced features within the Voxon Unity plugin. Within this tutorial, I will cover how to customize game objects within scenes, how to generate particle effects, how to instantiate objects that were not present at the start of the scene, and how to build projects. So first, we're going to go within a pre-set up scene. This has already got the camera object created, and it's already been set up as a base camera within the Voxon Unity plugin. So first thing we're going to do is create a simple cube. As with before, if we hit play, we might actually put it within the scene itself. If we hit play, the object's drawn. As you can see there, it's actually only the outside of the object's being drawn. It's not fully being filled in. This is a massive frame saver, as each pixel drawn within the VoxyBox obviously has a CPU burden. Now, we can actually cause that to happen manually by loading up VX component. This can be added to any object that has a mesh to be rendered. From here, we can choose flags. Currently it's set to surface, but if we set it to solid, we can save and run again. Now, it probably won't appear on this video to be running any slower, but this is actually a lot more intense. This is a pure cube of light, as each pixel throughout the entire height of that object is being lit up. So if your scenes are getting more and more complex and you really are more after the gesture or the shape of an object rather than it being fully realized, you can actually choose lines, which goes into the traditional mesh style of graphics. So when we draw this, you can actually see each of the vertices. If you prefer something even more reduced, you can swap over to dots, which will only draw the vertices themselves and not the interconnecting lines. Since this is only a simple cube, it's very hard to see, if not impossible. But each of the cubes is actually, each of the points is actually being drawn. This can be used for some very complex meshes, to still give the look of the visual, the mesh itself, without having to fully draw out the object. Another thing we can do within our scenes is particle effects. Creating a simple object and attaching a particle stream to it. Placing it within our scene. By default, the system will automatically add a component to this to allow it to be drawn. So there we are. To swap between each of the different styles, all we need to do is go add component, go VX particle, and then we can simply swap between each of the different styles to get different types of particles being drawn. Obviously, the particles themselves can be controlled via shape, emission, etc. Now for mesh, we actually need to go into renderer. Let's change mode from billboard to mesh. Choose our mesh of choice. I normally prefer to use a pyramid, as it has a low number of vertices, which works better with what we're doing. And a material, and we'll just go red. Oop, forgot to change over our draw style. So we go here, go mesh, save, run again. And there we are. Many pyramids. I think I'm currently using my non-UV'd pyramid. Much better. There we are, our tiny little there we are. To draw something in mesh mode, go to Mesh, select the mesh in question. In this case, I've chosen my pyramids. Material should be ignored for the moment as we do not currently support textures within the particle system. So you should go to Color and choose a color you like. You can then manipulate size, lifetime, etc. And then we hit Run. There we are, many little pyramids shooting off into the distance. But what about objects that aren't present at the start of the scene? Currently, the system begins with, at the start of each scene, any game objects that are present that have any sort of mesh, particle effect, or line are automatically collected. Components, particle systems, VX particle systems are automatically attached to each of those, and that is why they're currently drawn. If, however, you have objects that are spawning after the scene has begun, there is currently no system to automatically collect these. We are leaving this up to the developer to choose the best approach for themselves for how they wish this to be done. One approach is to create each of those objects to be spawned as prefabs and attach a VX component to that object. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to make a spawner to drop items from above. We'll work with just simple cubes, simple spheres. Create a single sphere. Now we'll attach a VX component to it. So that ensures that regardless of when it is spawned, it will always be visible. We'll set its defaults to 0, 0, 0, 0. I think we'd like this object to bounce. So what we'll do is add a rigid body to it. And we will attach a physical material. So we'll go in here. Got one I set up earlier, just simple bounce being applied to it, and attach that to the object. This is currently a bug that may occur for you. Because of how Unity interacts with DLLs, it may sometimes freeze when you've run the simulator a number of times. To fix this, simply restart Unity. Now, we're back into our scene. Just drag the material across. There we are. We can see it's now been applied to the sphere. So we'll drag this in and make it into a prefab. So prefabs. Now we can remove it from the game scene altogether and create a spawner. So we'll just create a simple empty game object. And let's add a script. Oh, I already have one previously, so let's So simply what we'll do is on update, we'll instantiate a game object. So what we'll do is make our spawning game object public. And we'll get it to use the current transform. Now obviously this is going to spawn many objects, which may be a bit of a problem for us in the long run. So what we'll also add is a script I created earlier called Destroyer. Destroyer simply, on collision, grabs a colliding object and calls remove as a coroutine. Remove waits a short period of time, currently a quarter of a second, and then destroys whatever collided with the object. So this will mean any object that collides with our plane at the bottom will hit the object and after a quarter of a second will vanish. So our spawner will be moved up to, will be moved to 000 first and then moved up. And so now on run should drop balls from above. There we are. As they hit, they'll bounce around and then vanish after a few seconds. So we've got our very simple project here. How do we build it for release? We go File, Build Settings. This should all automatically be done by default using a pre-setup within the DLL itself. But we just wanted to double check. Platform is Windows. Each of the VX1s is running Windows 10 at the end of the day. And the architecture is always x86-64. And then we simply go Build. Choose our binary directory. And name our project. So the system automatically pre-processes all meshes to simplify loading at runtime. After your project has been built, simply go to the binary directory and you'll find the executable, a UniDLL and the vx.bat. To run VX1 projects, simply double-click on vx.bat. And there we are. The project will now be able to be distributed to the VX1.